And here we are on the best damn pod in the land. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for taking some time today. With me, as always, Dan, Divjack. Dan, what's up, man?
What's going on, buddy? I'm got a lot to talk about, man. Holy
Yeah,
cow.
I'm just,
Rapid fire.
I am juiced from Student Appreciation Day. It made me really excited for the spring game. I am even more excited about the hire last night that became official with Carlos Locklyn after watching some of his, I guess, videos. We'll share one in a minute. And then a lot of booms and more coming? Question mark.
Apparently, Jermaine Matthews just posted something on his Instagram story that said, just wait.
Yep.
Exclamation point. So, I mean, there's a bunch of crystal balls that are out there. So, things are good. Things are good.
Yeah. I did you catch the one for Cody Hadid out of the Cleveland area?
Yeah, they as soon as he decommitted from Wisconsin, I think either Kurlick or Wiltfong went ahead and gave him a crystal ball. I mean, it's fairly obvious.
Well,
Bucknuts did a pretty good job breaking down his film this morning.
Yeah, Steve Wiltfong switching over on 3-2 is something. I mean, I'm not the biggest Wiltfong guy, anyways, so it just it just reaffirmed kind of what I already thought, because I think on 3's trash. So, anyway, so hey, shots fired.
Tuesday feistiness.
Yeah, well, I keep it real here in the hood. Yeah. So Carlos Locklyn, like it, love it. What do you think?
Man, I absolutely love it. And I know a lot of people, some in Buckeye Nation, certainly, those of our competitors are going to say it's, sunshine, happy BS,
right?
Rose-colored glasses. But the more I dug into him, the more I loved it. And I think the most amusing thing about this is the Oregon fans are all thinking that this was a lateral move. Like, come on, guys. Like, yes, you do have the coolest – arguably the
they've
coolest
got Nike money.
Uniform combinations in the league, but I mean, come on, you're not a blue blood. You'll never be a blue blood. Ohio State is on a different level when it comes to brand recognition and what it means from a coaching perspective. So you guys go ahead and paint it any way you want, which you'll probably fire back and say, well, we're just saying what you guys did when Alfred left, but it's just different. I mean, Michigan's a blue blood. Right. So it's just not the same, Yeah. So, but I absolutely love it. And I'll give more feedback, but what are your thoughts on it?
I love the hire. I think it's a good hire. I like it better than the guy from South Carolina. I like the idea that he had a relationship with Jordan Davison already. And I've been talking about Jordan Davidson for 2 years. And he is the guy that breaks the modern day curse for me. I've been saying it for, even on my pod for a couple of years that, for a long time I called it modern no way because it just wasn't going to happen. Yep. Nikki Sululu was a long time ago, man. And so I think, Jordan Davidson makes it happen. He's just the guy in this class that's outside of Ohio that I just so badly want. And I mean, there's a couple, obviously we have David Sanders at the top of our list as well, but like he's one of those guys that, for me, it was Devin Sanchez, TJ Alford, Jordan Davidson, and then of course David Sanders. So those were like my, prime time, big time guys. And then when they got in on Fahim Delane, he was another one for me. But I didn't think we actually had a shot at him, at Fahim Delane, and same with David Sanders. And now all of a sudden, the tables have turned. Saban retires. NIL's up and up. But yeah, I want to play this video clip that you sent me and from Carlos Locklyn, and so bear with us. This is the first time we're trying to do this, but we're gonna give it a go. So he impressed me with this little clip, and he fires off quite a bit about what he thinks about people and especially people in his running back.
I don't coach Salt Bass Cookie. If you're a Salt Bass Cookie, you got to get away from around me. And they got a bakery for that. Guess what it's called? The transfer portal. I'm the best running back in the room. I tell them that every day. I still work like I'm the guy who's showing up at Memphis every day, sleeping in my car, changing the bathroom in hopes of just getting a locker and another shirt. We're gonna keep him off number 10, keep number 10 clean. We're gonna smack him in the mouth. I think you put the ball on the 1 yard line, ain't none of them out there tougher than me. They know that. I'm the toughest one in the room. Period. Every day I take the job as of I'm the best developer of the running back position. I take that personal when I see other coaches say that. Hell, I don't even rope coaches like, oh, hey, thank you for that motivation. When they say, well, I got the best developer. No, you don't. It's me. Every guy in that room, they're going to tell you, Coach Locke ain't finna give nobody. I'm not giving you nothing. You're going to earn it.
Gibson scored 3 touchdowns on a big Thanksgiving game. What is that feeling for you when you watch him have such a big moment?
Well, I ain't feel good about that one because he scored a touchdown against my Cowboys.
With that approach and attitude to the team, are you hoping that rubs off on them, and do you see that?
I ain't going to have no choice but to rub off because I ain't changing.
Well, there you have it, man.
I tell you, man, when I can't even think of the last time that we've had a coach with that mentality outwardly anyways. But I mean, who on that staff right now has got that dog in him like that? Got that, that I'm the king of the mountain.
I can think of one.
I can't. There's not
Threes.
Not one,
Threes.
Who?
Laurinaitis. You ever watch Laurinaitis coach those linebackers, man? He coaches like he's still playing. So he might not mouth it like that. He may not verbalize it like that, at least to the media. Yeah, exactly. But dude, I mean, when you watch him in there with those linebackers on the field pregame and at practice, like I put a helmet and pads on him, I guarantee he'd probably run out there. Yeah.
No, I love the guy's mentality. It's easy to say, oh, that's a bunch of bravado bull crap, but whatever.
Yeah. I like it.
I think players like it.
Fire off a little bit.
I mean, listen, I'm less concerned about us making a 4th and 1 now when we give it to the running back as we have been the last couple of years. O-line or not, I am less concerned about it.
Yeah.
And I just love the guy's background, man. I mean, I don't, I've told you a little bit off screen about, I went and coached high school football for a couple of years, 2010 and 11 in Atlanta, and I went to a coaching clinic, and Noel Mazzone offered me a GA position at UCLA, but it just wasn't going to be realistic financially with a family of 5. And,
right.
And, to know what this guy went through with twins and what he did to launch his coaching career at the college level, I respect it, man, and here we are 5 years later, and this guy's at Ohio State, coaching running backs at Ohio State.
Yep.
He went from working at a prison, showing up at Memphis in his bulletproof vest and work boots because he was getting there at the last minute 5 years ago, to coaching at Ohio State.
That's hustle, man.
It doesn't happen if you suck.
No.
I love it. I'm excited about it. I love the immediate boost that we got off of. I mean, we got 2 crystal balls for Jordan Davison right away. I do think that, I don't know, that seemed awfully quick, but it's on
the precipice of the weekend though. So he was there, and he was still there yesterday. Actually, Jordan Davidson was still in Columbus yesterday.
Interesting. I wonder if Locklyn got into town yesterday, if he stuck around for that, or if he wasn't. I mean, I would imagine the locks were changing his password. His laptop was locked out.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know. But yeah, I mean, so now everybody can think what they want about Zach Smith, but if you've ever listened to Zach Smith's story about how he slept on the couch in the coach's room, in the locker room and stuff when he first started coaching, like there's hustle that they had to be willing to give stuff up to get to where they are, and I think that kind of hustle is good for today's youth as well. So
and
his story is amazing.
And credit to on a side note, credit to Zach Smith for breaking this on Saturday night. It seems like Biddle gave him a little bit of a shout out, but man, it's I'm learning a lot about the beat, and the relationships there. Amongst
well, I mean,
I know to give him the props.
Yeah, sometime I can share with you some of the things, in my the people I know and what they feel and how they feel. But so Locklyn, love it. I think it's great. One of the things that ties into this was Marquise Davis visiting Michigan. I mentioned it last week. It kind of bothered me a little bit, and now I see that the top two for Ohio State are Jordan Davidson and Bo Jackson, and it kind of leaves Marquise Davis out of that loop a little bit, I guess. And what's interesting is that Marquise Davis was the apple of the eye for Tony Alford when he was at Ohio State. So,
Yeah.
Like, are we? You know, I he's an
First of
Ohio
all,
kid. You know,
I mean, I can see us taking 3. I think we need to take 3 in this next class. I
we
mean,
missed.
think about
Yeah.
it. We've only got 3 left after this year.
Yeah.
We've only got 3 scholarship guys, assuming that Q leaves, which, I mean, I think all assumptions.
You mean when
are
he
that
leaves?
Yeah. I mean, listen, Trey's back, right? He surprised us. But you know, if things go the way they should, I think Q's gone. So that leaves us with, you know, Hayden, Peoples, and William. Why I'm going to
Sam Williams Dixon.
Yeah, Williams Dixon. I wanted to say Williams Hunt. I think about Simpson Hunt. We have a couple hyphenated names on the roster this year. That's going to
Yeah. Well, Sam Williams Dixon is like played football at West Holmes High School for 3 years, which is literally like, you know, 20 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
So and then he transferred, but yeah, so that I paid a lot of attention to what he was doing.
Yeah. So I think we take 3 this next year. Now, are 3 high-profile guys like that going to want to come in the same class? I don't know. The other guy that, you know, we've offered a long time ago that's also a stud is Jeff Overton out of Virginia.
Yep. Not as much buzz about him right now.
No, I don't know if it's because, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why not. I mean, obviously, you know, you got Davison and then you got the 2 Ohio kids, so I can see how that happens. But he would not be a consolation prize. Let's put it that way. He's
no, absolutely not. And then, you know, I think back to, you know, so for instance, like Mayan Williams coming in from the Dayton area, Cincinnati area as a 3-star and a late add to the class, something like that could happen too. So yeah, we technically are actually missing 2 running backs in the room because we had a year where we didn't take any. What was that, 2022, I think?
Yeah.
So because we missed on Mark Fletcher and late and another Jordan Lyle, another. Well, he was this year, but another one of Tony Alford's wonderful recruiting jobs. So,
well, speaking of which, I finally remember the name because he started to pop up again. But there's the Byron Lewis kid out of Florida, that is on the radar, and I think making an official now and all that stuff. So, you know, we'll see. I think you start seeing a little bit. I think you start seeing like an extra player in certain position groups in the classes because of this prolonged schedule.
Yeah,
that they have to navigate through now.
Well, that, and I also saw where they're revisiting like how many coaches you can have on the field and versus GAs. So all of that plays in. And I actually think it'll get approved this time just because I think they're also going to up the scholarship limit. But because if they go to a larger format playoff that like even larger than what they're just that we have. The attrition rate, I don't know. See that there's a reason the NFL has a scout team, essentially, or whatever you want to call it. And they can call them
Practice
squad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, Carlos Locklyn in, TJ Alford. Sorry about that, man. Tony Alford out, TJ Alford in.
All fraud is our good friend Ducks.
So we trade one Alford for another, and I like the trade. How about you? TJ Alford Saturday commits, big boom. Love it. Yeah. Needed it. Like I need oxygen.
I feel a little bad for the kid because I think it became expected, and so many people started putting crystal balls in at the last minute that it kind of took away the thunder a little bit. But yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, holy cow! It started with London Merritt.
Yep, it's just a cascade.
It kind of came out of left field. I don't think we were expecting that. He was on as official.
Not this soon,
right? I saw an interview with him this morning. Jux interviewed him, and he said that when he came for the Michigan State game that he knew then, but he wanted to kind of keep him to himself just to make sure, and that then on this official or this visit, I don't know if it was an official or not, it was just time. And man, his film,
yeah,
he's nasty.
He is.
Man,
my.
he's got heavy hands.
Mm-hmm.
When you see that head snap, Dan Rubin was talking about this morning. You see the head
Gosh.
snap back on those
Yeah,
guys on the film.
yeah.
You know that they're heavy.
Well, you like just the, yeah, absolutely. Like I was like, ooh, all right, here we go.
But
Yeah.
no, I mean I so we've added him to Zaire Mathis. I thought LJ was washed up. I thought he was done. I mean, I thought they were going to put him out to pasture.
Yeah, apparently everybody was, and then, so let's call it what it is. And you and I talked about this, I think, on our very first podcast, that our NIL was not where it is now in 2023. So the guys that he lost, so now, and I also will caveat this with saying that if you lose a kid to Saban, or in that situation, and our NIL just wasn't firing on all cylinders. As much as I love the foundation, they just it took the foundation and the 1870 Society and awareness and people understanding that the playing field has changed for us to be in the position that we're in now.
Yeah.
And, and it just, we were on all fronts lagging behind in NIL during that recruiting cycle, where we lost Lightfoot and others. So,
what's the first thing that happened once the rest of the country realized we figured
they freaked out and they don't like it?
Well, no, now they want to. Now the SEC wants to team up with the Big Ten.
Yeah.
You partner up.
So we get London Merritt, we get T.J. Alford, we get Dezay Jones, a wide receiver, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's a 3-star, maybe a 4-star." You know what? If Brian Hartline recruited you and he thinks you can play, in Brian Hartline I trust. Let me just say that.
Well, you know how I feel about the stars. There's so many things that go into that. A kid, if he doesn't camp, if he does not go to camps, he's not getting a high ranking. If he commits to the wrong All-Star game, he will get dropped by the other rankings that are affiliated with other All-Star games.
He's going to get dropped because he committed to Ohio State now.
Right? There's so many politics that go into those rankings that I pay more attention to who's offered the kid, especially when you talk about, high 3s, low 4s. I pay way more attention to who's offered him as opposed to what their ranking is at that point. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, huge weekend.
Deshaun Stewart too, defensive back.
His film
tracks the ball.
He brings it. I can see him. All of his film, they got him lining up at outside corner, but man, he hits like a safety. But we've got those corners, we've got the, Burke's not Denzel Ward, Burke, Iggy, they're all willing to come up and
Jordan Hancock,
somebody. Yeah. So Jermaine Matthews, I mean,
yeah,
our corners are willing to, come up and hit people. So we'll see.
Yeah. I walked around on Sunday a little bit, and just kind of was listening to, some of the different people's takes on what Ohio State was doing. And, after all the craziness of Easter, I just needed like 10 minutes of sanity, non-chocolate, caffeinated children. And one of the things that I really thought was going to come away from the weekend, I thought Dorian Brew was going to commit. Because I think that they're going to move him to safety and they want him as a safety. And I think his future's at safety.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that we didn't get a commitment from him this weekend. If you wanted anything that I was surprised about that we didn't get, it would be Dorian Brew. I really thought. Now I had some like hope that they could get David Sanders to like sign, essentially sign on the dotted line while he was in town. Now I know that's probably fruitless thinking.
I think that's going to be a little bit of a slower play. I mean, that kid grew up with his bathroom decorated in Clemson gear, right?
Yeah.
But he did. I do think that, our current nil situation, I do think that the relationship with the Johnson family is a real impact.
Yeah.
I do think that, Miss Sanchez said that she spent some time with the mom, this past weekend. So, I mean, we're in it. Do I expect us to get him? Until we get a 5-star lineman from outside the state of Ohio, I'm always going to be apprehensive in making that call.
That's fair. I know
You
I've
know?
got people, you know, and I'm sure you see people always in my mentions because I'm a little bit of a eternal optimist when it comes to
Yeah.
that stuff, you know, and anybody who's followed me for any length of time knows that like I will root for Ohio State to get that kid right up until he commits, you know, so it just, we may not get him, but like being down about it doesn't help anybody. So you know, I know, and then some people say, well, you're not a realist then, and maybe I'm not, but I'm just a fan, and we are a couple fans, you know, doing a show. So all right,
Couple
so
fans doing a show for fans, but not
yeah,
only fans.
not only fans, we're not doing OFs. What do you make of Student Appreciation Day? So I sent you some different little things. And so let me start with the starting five on the offensive line. And it was very clear who the starting five were. So thoughts?
Yeah, you know, I thought it was really interesting that Carson Hinsman didn't get any reps with the ones apparently, and that it was very clearly Seth McLaughlin, which I think is what people expected coming into this. But you know, Carson's got 3 years of eligibility left, and he gave a really good interview. I think it was yesterday. He seems to have really grown up a little bit and matured. Got a good perspective. You know, I know you keep saying this, but that you're not hearing it. But Ryan did say that Josh slides into guard every once in a while.
I did. Okay. Now this is, I will be honest. I heard it, and I think it was Jeremy Birmingham or maybe Bill Landis that mentioned it afterwards in their Snappy Jays, that they haven't seen it, but Ryan Day did say that he's taken a few practice reps there.
Yeah, and I heard that earlier in camp. So, yeah, I mean, I think the starting five right now are obvious. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's that kid from Arkansas that apparently is going to be entering the portal. He was a freshman All-American.
Yep.
Big boy.
He's
so
a big kid.
That'll be interesting. I don't, you know, if we bring in a tackle from the portal that is a starter, that means Fryer's moving inside.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to jump Fryer with him being an Iron Buckeye in his last year and playing as well as he's playing. He moves inside before somebody takes over his job at right tackle and he goes to the bench. I took things with a grain of salt as far as, you know, what we saw on Saturday, especially when it came to the O-line. You know, people were more focused on how much Knowles was blitzing, and they thought that was an indication as to what our defense is going to be doing. And I think that was more Chip and Ryan saying, hey, bring the house so we can get this on film and coach these guys up because we're going to see it during the season. That's what that was about.
Yep.
You know, do I think we'll blitz a little bit more this year than we have in the past? Yes, especially with who we have at linebacker and then Caleb Downs now. I don't think it's going to be to the level that we saw. We don't need to. And Knowles is matured and he knows that. You know, I did get some feedback from one of the players, parent, that you know, the O-line really struggled because Knowles was just bringing the house. But that was to be expected.
Okay.
Having said that, I think the O-line is much farther ahead this time of year than they were last year.
I would agree with you. And I'm going to give you a name to listen for and pay attention to now through fall camp. Austin Saraveld.
I've heard that.
Just watch.
Yeah.
I have a sneaky suspicion. Yeah, I have a sneaky suspicion that he will he will take Donovan Jackson's guard position next year. And I think he might be in the running for, he isn't the two deep. And I think he might be in the running for, you know, maybe second off the bench behind Carson Hinsman. So his downfall was he comes from a high school where they just flat out didn't believe in the forward pass, but he's a hell of a run blocker.
Yeah.
So he could get coached up, but pay attention to Austin Saraveld. He's one that I keep hearing murmurs and whispers that he's making some moves behind the scenes. So
you know that forward pass, there's only three things that happen when you do that. And two of them are bad.
Two of them are bad. Yep. Damn straight, man. All right. So the other thing I took away from Saturday was there is a very clear top 5 for the wide receivers. How
yeah.
are you feeling about that?
Yeah, unequivocally, I think Bryson Rogers has that 5th spot nailed down.
What I tell you?
Yeah. It would have been really interesting to see what would have happened if Noah stayed.
I agree.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple kids hit the portal in the spring.
Keon Graves and that group, or
yeah.
that.
I mean, it's just. I mean, when you look at what's coming in behind them, what we've got coming in next year, and Ennis and Tate, they've got another year after this year. JJ's got 3, including this year. Bryson's got at least
2.
another 2. I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
That's.
I was just curious where you were at with that.
Some people leave from.
Yeah, I was just curious. So you know how much I like Jaden Ballard because he's from my area, and but Bryson Rogers is my guy. Like I love his game. I loved it when they recruited him. I was like, man, he's so overlooked. This class is so big. All the things, So
that pass over the middle from Devin that he took,
that was a rip, man.
It was a great throw, but
yep.
I mean it's
split
almost
the
like
defenders.
He had a second gear.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he ran away from him. He split the defenders. It was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's guys that like intrigue me. Jaden Ballard's one, Kodra Antwi's one, Keon Graves. Like all those guys can play football.
Yeah.
And we need depth in that room. But for me, it was pretty clear on Saturday. It was Mech and Tate and Ennis and JJ and Bryson and then everybody else. And is that how you feel?
Absolutely. I was a little surprised Ennis didn't play. I guess he's dinged up. It's the first I'd heard about that, which doesn't surprise me. It's spring. I was surprised a little bit by the lack of didn't really hear much about Tate. I mean, I'm starting to wonder if he's the one that ends up on the bench at the beginning of the year. I'd be shocked by that. I'm expecting Emeka to slide to the inside and JJ to be on the outside. I mean, obviously, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. I mean, the kid's as advertised, right?
Yeah.
He's
a growing man.
He's free. Yeah. When you got Denzel, truth serum Burke coming out and saying, listen, I don't want to hear anything more about it. Kid's the truth.
Yeah.
And then you got Ryan, in the post game presser saying, look, I need to be careful, but he's not gonna I'm starting to think he's gonna lead the team in receiving, which is absurd. Especially if Emeka is healthy.
Yeah.
But the kid's just, especially the first 5 games of the year, 3 games of the year, I can see him taking, 2 to the house, 60, 70, 80 yards per game. Just, he's that good.
Yeah. Yeah. He it's exciting, man. I could see absolutely. I think it might be Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith on the outside, and then Emeka in the slot, and then Ennis working in with that. But that's saying a lot, man. I mean, there's a long way to go till fall, but certainly he looks and feels like Megatron, and I know and I'm so careful with this, but like I felt like Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably one of the best wide receivers in college football I've ever watched play. Probably in the top 5. And to think that Jeremiah Smith might be better than Marvin Harrison Jr. is something. And I don't like to use the word or term generational talent. I just don't. I struggle with that. But wow.
Yeah.
I mean, what we've seen so far, just wow. Switching, go ahead.
So hold on. So put that in perspective. What did Marvin say about Tate last year?
That he was ahead of where Marv was as a freshman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So life is good, man.
It's good to be a Buckeye.
Question.
It's good to be a Buckeye. Yeah. So top 3 quarterbacks also pretty firmly established. And I did note one thing, that Aaron Noland is hurt.
Is he?
Yeah. Yeah, he's dinged up. So he and Brandon Ennis both. So
But
the
according to who?
Birmingham.
According to who, though?
Yeah, I'm just telling you. I don't think Berm would say something that he didn't think was true. But
I think Berm's being told that.
mm,
I don't. I mean, there's things going on with Air that just aren't. There's off-field stuff. He's really struggling on the field. I mean, he did the 7-on-7s. You know, he did the individual drills. I think Air's struggling.
okay,
Yeah.
we'll say that for a time that we.
I don't mean to be cynical, but I just think that Ryan was very, very, very dismissive about him. Ryan said Brandon was dinged up. He didn't say Air was dinged up.
Mm,
He said, "Yeah, we'll get him in there." Like it was so dismissive. It was really, really interesting to me.
okay. So it was Devin and Will and then a mix of and Keenholz didn't play very much. And Julian Sayin and some of the throws I saw from Sayin were exactly what you and I have communicated, exactly what I've been told, that he throws the most catchable ball of any of the quarterbacks. Which I'm not bashing anybody. We've talked about this.
He's got the quickest release.
It's so fluid. Yeah. That kid, he, and somebody asked me, who does he remind you of? And I finally came up with an answer.
Who's it?
Joe Burrow. 6'2", quick release.
Not 6'2", man.
Well, they say he's 6'2".
He's there. So I saw a post the other day from a kid that took a picture with him at Student Appreciation Day, and somebody asked him, they asked how tall he was. That the kid in the picture, and he goes, "I'm like 6'1.5". Sane was a full inch shorter than this kid.
Okay. Fair enough. I just the build, the metrics, the quick release, catchable ball, kind of reminded me of Joe Burrow as a Buckeye. But and he also obviously turned out to be a pretty darn good football player. But Devin and Will, I didn't take anything away from the practice that I didn't already know. Yeah. Devin's got a cannon. He played really well. Will Howard played what Will Howard plays. His deep ball's not great. We know that. He's a game manager. We know that. He's got a lot of seniority. We know that. Yeah. Devin, I think, probably outperformed him from the videos that I've seen in the time that I've spent. And we got a real quarterback battle.
Yeah. No, we sure do. It's interesting. I don't think there's going to be any sort of depth chart coming out of spring. We talked about it last show. I think it'd be bad business to do that. I'm not going to be surprised if Ryan doesn't get his hand forced by one or two guys. And I think that person's going to be Will Howard.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's his last hurrah. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out with the portal opening on April 15th. I still don't. I don't know. I'm unsure as to whether any of those five will be in the portal. I've told you who I think they would be. Yeah, it would be Air or Lincoln before anybody else. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Devin. I'm a fan. I was really surprised to hear almost every show talk about it was the best they've seen him look. Mm-hmm. They didn't say that he was head and shoulders above Will, but they said it's the best they've seen him look. Will lost his black stripe.
I was just about to ask you about that. So let me pump this up for you. Okay. And then you can answer it. So was this intentional at Student Appreciation Day to take Will Howard's black stripe with media, with students, with all the pub going around was this purposeful by Ryan Day?
Well, let me answer that by telling you something that I've heard that I'm sharing with you for the first time right now. I heard that Chip Kelly was not thrilled with him losing his stripe on Saturday. which is really juicy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that speaks to, you know, him and Ryan's relationship. It speaks to whether or not it should have been done. I got to be honest with you, man. I'm a little surprised that they didn't find a way to do it sooner. Like, did he not have a good enough practice at some point to have done it earlier?
That's what the reason for my question.
You know,
I'm not a conspiracy theorist. My hat is not made of tinfoil, but it definitely seemed to be a spectacle.
And that, I'll be honest with you, man. If that's what it was, that really concerns me.
I'm not saying it was. I'm just asking because like the timing was interesting, but McLaughlin lost his too, you know. So like it was kind of, they kind of coincided, and I'm okay with it. Like it, whatever, you know. He could have done it after the spring game. It whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But we've all seen what we've seen, and the only feedback I've gotten, and this is something that was very interesting to me, and I wanted to ask you, and I don't know if it's true. I really don't. I'd like to vet it, but I don't have any way to talk to Ryan Day directly. But I've been told that there are very real concerns about Devin Brown's ability to stay healthy for an entire season, given the situation the last couple of years. Now, we both like Devin. I think he's a great player.
Mm-hmm.
You know, valid or invalid, you know, Will Howard's a bad child. So
Yeah.
not saying he couldn't get hurt either.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I think everybody that watches our show now understands how big of a fan of Devin Brown I am. But that's a valid concern, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and the thing that is freaky about it is that the kid had no history of injuries in high school at all.
Right. And I went back and looked because I wanted, before I prefaced this and asked you, I wanted to see if he, you know, like what, and no, nothing.
You know, and then he gets the freak finger last year going into the spring game, which I, you know,
hit a helmet. Yeah.
Think, you know, I think that, and then, you know, same injury, separate ankles. Yeah. I mean, that's a valid, you've got to be concerned with that.
Okay.
If you're not, then you're not being responsible. You know, I'm saying this as a coach or as a staff. So now let me ask you this. Are you suggesting that that's going to impact the final decision?
I don't think it impacts the final decision. I bring it up because let's just say Will Howard says, well, I know I'm not the guy. I'm going to go ahead and move on. And then you're right back where you were in the Missouri game, where you have Devin Brown, possibly not durable. Lincoln Keenholz hasn't really shown much. And then you're Julian Sayin. So I was just curious. It like, you know, it's a conundrum for sure. And maybe Brown stays healthy for the whole year. It's not a problem. He, you know, does, you know, and he doesn't have, like, a thing I keep coming back to is with the amount of talent we have on offense, he doesn't have to run the football. Like, it would be nice if they can, but he doesn't have to.
Well, I think that the way Devin was handled last year has completely mischaracterized what type of quarterback he is and what his strengths are.
Yeah.
He is not a dual threat quarterback. He is not, you know, Johnny Manziel. He is not Tim Tebow. He's not Will Howard. You know, he's a guy that can get away from people in the pocket if he has to. He's a guy that can keep it when you're inside, you know, the 10 and sneak into the end zone. But, you know, he's not taking the ball and going 75 yards against Texas like Will Howard did last year.
Yeah.
That's not his game. And I think it's unfortunate as to how he was used last year that it's created this thing that he's a dual threat. I see so many comments that people are like, we need to stop saying he's a dual threat and a runner because he's not. No, he's not.
All right.
That was Ryan mismanaging the quarterbacks last year.
Yeah.
And that was Kyle being so bad and so immobile that they had to do something, you know, inside the red zone.
Yeah.
And Devin was the best option.
If you go back and watch any of my Buckeye Blitz, I did a thing comparing McCord and Brown, and I basically said they're the same person, although that Devin might win in a straight line race by a half a second in a 40-yard dash. or something along those lines, or 100-yard dash, maybe I said. But he's not. The difference wasn't exponential between the two of them and their fleet-footedness. Now McCord's a statue, but I feel like Devin Brown can work the pocket a little bit better, a la C.J. Stroud, and I said that exact thing in my old podcast. But yeah, I agree with you. So
I mean, there were a couple plays in the Missouri game, the brief time that he was in there, where he reversed and rolled left to escape pressure.
Yeah,
McCord could have never done that.
No,
McCord would have tripped over his feet if he tried to spin from right to left and roll left. But man, you're saying something here that makes me really, really, really worried. Like if Will Howard goes and tries to force Ryan Day's hand, we're basically looking at the same situation as last year.
Mm-hmm.
If he does that, and I'm saying this has nothing to do with my affinity for Devin Brown. This has everything to do with what happened last year. If Will Howard tried to force Ryan Day's hand and say, you either need to name me the starter or I'm out of here, I'm going with Devin and Julian.
Okay. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't have anything to add to it.
And that's only because I think Julian's farther ahead now than Lincoln is after being a year in the program.
Yeah. Okay.
He's just a different dude. Julian's saying special, man.
Yeah.
He's special.
Yeah. We're going to be enjoying Julian Sayin as our starting quarterback for the next couple of years. So, All right, guys. Well, Dan, any last words, man? I know it was a big weekend, a lot going on. Yeah. We'll keep our eye on the recruiting, I liked what we heard coming out of the weekend from all sides, and I'm planning on Friday for us to talk a little bit about the defense and break down the defense and the defensive tackle rotation in particular, because you know me and I love my defensive tackles, and see if there's any more news and notes in between now and then. Hopefully, get a couple more views of some practice footage, etc.
Some booms.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think we'll get a couple more this week. There just seems to be some that are coming out of the weekend. There's too much smoke for there not to be a couple more. I don't think it's going to be necessarily the people that people are assuming. Like Devontae Armstrong, did a gif of somebody reeling in a big fish, and they assumed that since he's a lineman, that meant Sanders. I don't think Sanders.
I think it's Jordan Davidson.
He's not ready to commit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some booms this week. Hopefully we get to see an introduction to Coach Locklyn.
Thought I read that they were doing that on Thursday. Let me go back and check, but I thought I saw Thursday.
Practices this week are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for us. Big weekend, lots of booms, lots of great stuff, lots of good things to talk about. And as always, we're trying to stay on it as best we can, guys. In all sincerity too, if you're watching this today and you're in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, or anywhere that this crazy storm front's going, stay safe out there. Pay attention to the weather stuff.
There's here.
Yeah, in Tennessee as well. The Ohio Valley area is what they call it. So, guys, seriously, pay attention to the sirens, your phones, and it's no joke. So, if you guys, are out and about. All right, guys. Well, thank you.
Hey, real quick, don't forget to, if you're enjoying the show, go ahead and like it, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends about it. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always forget that, man. It's never in my mind. Actually. I just have so much fun doing the show. I forget about that. You'd think I'd be better at it after all this time, but I'm not. Yeah. All right, you guys, stay safe out there. Thank you. And as always, go Bucks.
All right, brother. Go Bucks.